Hey y'all, I'm Steve.
And I'm Kelly.
And we're with Stand Up Arkansas, and we are bringing you the voter's guide for 2024 election. We need to tell you who we think our favorite candidates are around the state. We've got some leaders that have stepped up. So if they're on our radar, we wanted to kind of share our thoughts, and we're going to talk about Will LaRue. Will LaRue is running for Justice of the Peace in Faulkner County.
Yep.
And this guy has got it together.
I am so impressed. I didn't know anything about Will LaRue until you did a recent interview with him, and I got to listen to that. And since then, I've gotten to spend a little time with him as well. And wow, like he is so passionate about a lot of things, but people, yes. And, you know, really ensuring that people's voices are heard. That's what has stood out to me, is that, you know, his life's work has literally been to go out and help folks who need support.
Yeah, his life's work. He literally is a partner in his manufacturing company with his dad. And y'all, this guy, he's running for Justice of the Peace and very well could have run for a statewide race. And I've told him, and I'll tell all of y'all, Will LaRue will be on a statewide ballot in the next several cycles. But he needed some emphasis on his district at home. Literally, they have an animal control problem, and they've been going back and forth. The city has a shelter, and there's been money allocated, and it's misallocated, and it's not spent right, and he's on top of it. But it's a problem in his district, and he wants to get that taken care of. Mm-hmm. This manufacturing plant that he has with his dad, he came right out of college, and they were coming out of the pandemic. Or maybe it was during the pandemic, and they were trying to get workers. And he knew that we had a recidivism problem in Arkansas. You know, people that are coming out of prison, they don't have work, they don't have a house, they don't have an income, and they end up right back in prison. And there's a pipeline. And we have some very, very important work being done around keeping people out of prison and getting them on their feet. I'm going to call out Sheriff Higgins on this. And I know whether you believed in what happened with his TV show or whatever, the controversy, he's trying to do things different, and he's trying to give people a chance and the knowledge to know that they can do something with their life afterwards. But he called up and started deciding to bring recently released prisoners on to work in their manufacturing plant. And he found the person call, and he called them, and they said, okay, so what restrictions do you have? And Will thought about it a second. He's like, well, we don't have any restrictions. And the guy cried.
You know, I think one of the things that we're so passionate about is we know that there are large swaths of people in our state that are not represented.
Right.
And what I think is that Will is very passionate about representing those communities that may not have adequate representation. And, you know, a lot of people don't really understand what the JP does. And I didn't. And, you know, I consider myself to be pretty savvy about things. But I thought that the JP was who could marry you. I had no idea what a JP did until we moved to Rosebud and we started learning about all of this. That role, especially right now, when you think about county government, there's not a role more critical than that one right now.
Yeah,
big decisions around how money is spent, about the freedom that we have around our libraries and our schools. I mean, there are real things that these Justice of the Peace have to deal with. And we need representation, because right now in many of our communities and our counties, it's not representative of the people who live there.
Good. I want to come back to this recidivism thing because it's real important. And I have a full podcast with Will, and I recommend anybody just go listen to this.
Even after the election, like if you don't have time between now and Tuesday, go spend some time learning about Will LaRue, because he's around to stay.
He is around to stay. So Sheriff Higgins has this one program. There's only like a 3% return rate, which is like ridiculous. I mean, 97% of the people that go through the program do not go back to prison. But Will was explaining a job, a car, and a place to stay. Mm-hmm. And
Which we take those things for granted.
when these guys or gals have a place to stay, an income, and a car, they won't go back to prison. They want to be just as productive, and they need a leg up. So he told him, like, no restrictions. And the guy cried and said, I can't find jobs for some of these people. And he's like, bring them on. And he has a very loyal, productive workforce, and they're extremely happy with the outcome of that. And they've definitely changed the lives of people. And that's the guy that's running for JP.
We need him to be the JP.
Yes. There's so much that needs to be done in Arkansas. And people think about the glory of running for office, I guess. It's hard work. And they beat you up and they threaten to kill you. And it's not like you're doing it for the money. You're making less money if you do this job than you got to carve out your job. Mm-hmm. And he's out there wanting to do that, so he makes it better for everybody else. If this was a betting line, or if we were talking about sports, he'd be like my number one draft pick for 26. Like, I hope he wins this seat. He deserves to win this seat. But I think he's got a real strong guy running against him that it's going to be a right down to the wire.
We need everyone
race
to come out. We just have a couple more days now, and we need every vote in that race. There are tight races in this area.
Especially Conway.
Tight.
Faulkner. Like, we had a runoff with McGee last time, and I think that Maureen's race, she was real close. The amount of people that you can help get to the polls will make a difference.
Yep.
So on this
Let's do it.
Let's go get Will LaRue elected to JP in Faulkner County. My name is Steve.
I'm Kelly.
And we're with Stand Up Arkansas, and just go out and vote. Thanks.